So today I am finally doing a video that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. That video, as you can tell by the title, is me talking about some of the reasons why we chose to have an only child. Now, this is a very personal decision, and I'm not here to tell anyone, like, you should have an only child, this is why. No, I am not anti-big families. I think big families are totally great if that works for you. We just happen to feel that what was best for us was an only child, and I wanted to talk about that because I feel like it's something that people really don't understand, and it's very looked down upon in certain groups, like, oh, they only have one child, they're gonna be spoiled brats, blah blah blah, like, and it's stigmatized, I guess might be the good word. A lot of people don't get it, and they think people are weird if they have an only child, or that only children are going to be weird, and that's just not true. I mean, it's my opinion that everybody's weird in their own way, so she'll be weird in her own way, and that's fine. Again, I'm not trying to tell people to have an only child. These are just some of the reasons personally why we chose to have an only child. And also, if I didn't already say it, I'm not trying to speak for all families with an only child. These are just our reasons. This is the third time I've filmed this intro, so hopefully I said everything I wanted to say this time. I'm going to get into it. If I sound confusing or misleading or something, you guys can ask me questions down below. I've got a lot going on in my head, a lot of things I want to say, a lot of things I want to try to explain, and it's hard to get it all perfectly on camera, everything I want to say. So, that said, if I didn't already say, I'm going to be giving you guys the 7 of the reasons why we chose to have an only child. There was so many reasons. We talked about it for a long time before making the decision to not have any more kids. And it, like I said, it's a very personal decision. This is just what Ryan and I came to. It is a completely mutual decision that we made. It wasn't one or the other wanting no more children. We both didn't want more children. But I'm mostly going to be speaking from my perspective. I don't want to speak for Ryan and, like, missay how he feels about it. It would have been interesting if we had done this together, but as you guys have seen in the past, Ryan's not a huge talker, so I'm doing this on my own. So that said, I'm going to give you guys my seven of my reasons and try to kind of explain it. And hopefully it can be kind of helpful for anyone who, like, doesn't understand their family member who doesn't want any more kids, you know, or maybe you yourself are debating if you want more kids, and maybe this can help you think through some things. Again, not trying to tell you what to do at all in any way. My number 1 reason, these aren't exactly like in order of importance, but just how I wrote them down, and if I'm looking down, it's because I have a paper with some notes on it. The number 1 reason that I have is because of mine and Ryan's relationship. And to us, keeping our relationship really good is super important. And for me, the way I see it is I committed to Ryan before I committed to kids. And I made a commitment to him, to love him and cherish him and honor him and be there for him and to support him and all these things, you know, that you promise when you marry someone. And I made that promise first. And so that is the most important to me. He's, you know, my life partner. I'm doing this with him forever. So keeping our relationship really solid was very important to us. And having Aaliyah, while she's enriched our life so much and she's made us so happy and we love having her and we would never ever take having her back at all, it definitely puts a strain on our relationship. We don't have the time together that we used to. You know, kids take up a lot of time. It's just a fact. Like, we do try to make time, like, for just the 2 of us, but it's hard because anytime we're away from her, we miss her, and he works all day, so he doesn't get to see her as much as me, so making time for just the 2 of us is hard, especially with her still being young. She's not even quite 3. So anyways, it took away a lot of the us time having a child, and so thinking about having more, it's like, if we have another one, that's just going to be that many more years of us not having time together, and a second baby would mean a lot more sleepless nights, which means we're grumpier, which means it's harder for us to, you know, connect, and it's a lot of stuff when we thought about having a second kid, and so keeping it with just Aaliyah means we're that much closer to having more time together, because as she gets older, she'll be more independent, and we can have more time together, which is really important to us. I'm worried I'm not really fully explaining myself here, but anyways, number 2 is having real time with Aaliyah. The thought of having a second child made me sad, because I was like, that's going to be that much less time I have just for her. And I feel like I'm just one of those moms. I'm just, like, so in love with my kid, like, the thought of having another one, I'm just like, that would take away from our relationship. And again, nothing against people with more kids, and I'm sure other people can manage it a lot better than I would have. It just, for me, it was important to really focus on the child that I had And I love her so much, and we just really wanted to be able to focus on her. And, you know, when I think about the things that are really important to us as parents, the things we really want to teach her, the thought of having a second child made me worry, you know, we won't be able to focus on these things as much because our time's going to be split between 2 kids. And so for me, it was just a big enough reason to not have another one. I mean, none of these reasons are reason enough on their own, but all of them combined are what brought us to the conclusion to not have more kids. So yeah, just enough time with Aaliyah was really important to us, and we value our time with our kid, like, very highly, and we didn't want to miss out on things, I guess, with her by having more kids. Reason number 3 is kind of an obvious one. It's just easier having less kids. With one child, everything is easier. Everything's cheaper. Vacationing is easier with one child. Getting a babysitter is easier with one child. You know, just going out to eat is easier with one kid. Anything we do is easier with one. I know some people say with 2, though, then they play with each other. It gives you more free time because they're happy together. But there's no guarantee that your kids will like each other if you have more than one. Again, not saying anything about you shouldn't have 2 kids, but I just feel like all of this sounds bad. Again, this is just my perspective and what I think and how I feel about our family personally. So anyways, it's just easier, and I see moms with more than one kid, and they are a lot more stressed out than me, and I'm already a pretty stressed out person because I have stress issues, I guess. But anyways, I didn't want that. I didn't want to make our life more stressful than it needed to be. Like, it's stressful with one, and I know adding more kids, it's more stress because you worry about your kids a lot, and then it's just more kids to worry about. And for me, I wanted to keep our life a little less stressful if possible, and so having just one makes it easier, makes it less stressful, and yeah, that leads into my other one, which I feel like maybe I should have put up higher on the list. Number 4 is just that we felt like our family was complete. We didn't feel like anything was missing. And I've heard a lot of people say like something still feels missing, like they want another kid, and that's totally fine for them. Like, and that's great that people can tell when they want more and when they don't. But for me, I really felt like our family was complete. We felt happy. We didn't feel like we were missing out on anything. We love our family exactly how it is with just the 3 of us. We just are really, really happy being a family of 3, which I meant to say this earlier. That's something that I never, ever, ever thought would happen. And in the past, I said I would never have an only child. I would never, ever have an only child. But life changes. You grow up and you realize you want different things. And we're really happy with an only child. And she's happy. And she's doing great. And she's independent. And yeah, we're happy with our family the way it is. You know, we don't feel like we're lacking for only having an only child. So that was a big thing for us because, like I said, some families do feel like something's missing when they only have one child. But for us, we really didn't feel like anything was missing. Reason number 5, this is kind of a weird one that's more personal to our family, is that Ryan is in a band. You guys know I have a friend now. Anyways, Ryan is in a band, and that's something that's important to him. You know, it's not just a hobby for him. He really loves playing music, and it does take up a lot of time for him. And I won't lie, it's not always easy. Like, he has to be gone a lot for rehearsals and for shows, and sometimes he's out of town and doesn't get home till, 3, 4 in the morning if it's a show out of town. And then when they're recording, that takes up even more time, and sometimes they have to practice more if they have a big show coming up. And then there's other random things like photo shoots or just band meetings he has to go to. And that's hard when I'm at home with a kid all day while he's at work, and then he has stuff right after work and sometimes doesn't even get to come home. And I don't mean to like whine or complain, like it's fine, like this is a choice we're making, and it's something that makes Ryan really happy and he really loves doing. You have cereal in your eye, gross. Anyways, so for me, when I thought about having another kid, it felt stressful to think of being home alone that much with 2 kids, let alone just one. And I didn't want there to be more pressure on Ryan to not be able to do the things he wants to do in life. And I know some people would think that sounds selfish or something, but we're more than just parents. And he does have a passion and something he loves doing, and I wanted to support that. And by not having a second kid, that definitely supports him being able to do those things. Like, I already miss out on doing a lot of stuff with him because before we had Aaliyah, I used to be able to do a lot of the things with him, going to shows and whatever. And I miss out on a lot of that now, which again is a choice because I want to be home with her. And I don't like being away from her late at night, so I do miss out on a lot of that stuff, but I don't want Ryan to miss out on it. I want him to be able to follow his passion and to do it to the fullest, you know, like as much as he can as a dad and a husband. You know, living the single life would have been easier for his band career, but he did choose me, and he chose Aaliyah, and he, you know, obviously he doesn't regret those choices, but...
I'm trying to show my owie.
Oh yeah, she has an owie. Just a second. Anyway, so I wanted to be able to support him, being able to keep doing that as much as possible, and that meant an only child. It makes it a lot easier with only one, and then if he ever does, you know, hit it big and they do a tour or something, it would be a lot easier for me and one child to go, Leah, than us trying to take a bunch of kids with us. I honestly think if we had 2 kids, it wouldn't even be an option. Okay, well, that got out of hand. You guys see what I mean about kids being a little bit difficult? No, she was having fun. And if this wasn't more of a sit-down, if this wasn't a sit-down video, I wouldn't mind her interrupting, but it's a little bit hard to do sit-down videos when she's climbing all over me. So anyways, I think I basically got 0.5 done with Ryan's band stuff. Like, I just want him to be able to continue with that, and more kids would make that more difficult. Not that it can't be done. Obviously, a lot of rock stars have a lot of kids. Yeah, that was one of my reasons for wanting to stick with one kid. Reason number 6, for me, my own health. Anytime you get pregnant, there's always a risk for many things to happen. Doesn't mean they're going to happen. My pregnancy with Aaliyah went pretty well overall, but giving birth did give me some hip issues, and so the thought of delivering a second child naturally was a little bit freaky. I didn't want to make my hips worse, honestly, and just, I didn't want to put myself at risk for anything. Again, this isn't the only reason, but it's just a reason. And, you know, there's always a risk that something could go very wrong. It does happen. It's not nearly as common these days, but stuff does happen. And the thought of something serious happening, that, you know, very small chance that something could happen to me and I would be leaving Aaliyah and Ryan all alone, like, that's not something I want to risk. Obviously, I could die of something else easily, but it's a risk factor adding in another pregnancy, and it's just not something I wanted to risk personally for me or a baby. I just wanted to stick with how I was, because, I mean, some people do develop some unfortunate health issues due to pregnancy, and I just didn't want to put my body through it again. I mean, pregnancy is hard. I think it's beautiful and wonderful, and I absolutely loved having Aaliyah. It was an amazing experience, you know, carrying her to full term and delivering her. I mean, to be fair, labor was uncomfortable, but still an amazing experience that I look back on with a lot of happiness and joy. I do think it's great, and I think it's amazing that some mothers do it so many times, because it is exhausting. It is very exhausting on your body and emotions, and I guess kind of with that, I feel like handling a pregnancy with a toddler would be very hard. I know everyone, or tons of people do it, but for me, again, just a choice I personally made. I didn't want to go through another pregnancy while trying to raise Aaliyah at the same time and risk many health issues that could come up. Okay. So that's a lot of my reasons there, the first 6, and reason number 7 is a really personal one that I wasn't sure I was going to share, but I feel like it is important and a big reason why I didn't want to have another baby, and that is before Aaliyah, we did lose a baby. I got pregnant a little over 4 years ago, and I made it to 12 weeks, and I miscarried, and it was awful and really hard, and something that's still difficult, as you can tell. It's been almost 4 years since we lost our first baby, and it's an experience I wouldn't wish on anybody. But unfortunately happens to a lot of people. 1 in 4 pregnancies ends in a loss, and I was that 1 in 4, and it's not something I ever thought would happen. It's not something I was prepared for. It's something that is hard to live with. It really is, and I didn't necessarily want to talk about it. I didn't want it to seem like trying to get attention over it, or, you know, use that loss to gain views or anything like that. But it is a reason why I didn't want to get pregnant again. We had Aaliyah, which it was scary to get pregnant the second time, but that went well. She was born, she's healthy, she's beautiful, she's wonderful, and I am so incredibly thankful. I can't tell you how many times I've thanked God that we have a healthy and beautiful child here with us, because I know how valuable it is. And some people take pregnancy and kids for granted, people that don't have a loss, and it seems easy to some, but for a lot of us it's not, and for some people it's even much more difficult than it was for us. You know, we didn't have trouble getting pregnant again, but the thought of losing another baby was very scary to me. I know what it's done to me personally, losing a child. I know how hard it is for me under certain circumstances. I mean, I've healed a lot from it, you know, and as a Christian, I know we'll see our baby again someday in heaven, and for me, that's a huge comfort, but that doesn't mean it's easy living with it currently, knowing we could have had another child. Our whole life would have been different if we'd had that child, and I didn't want to have a second baby, potentially, that wasn't here with us. And so, even though it's not like I have high risk for losing another pregnancy, it's just, there's always a chance. And for me, when I already had a healthy, beautiful child, and I was happy with the way my family was, I just didn't want to put us at risk for another loss. So, that's my reason number 7. I didn't want to lose another baby. And I think I've learned and grown a lot from that loss, but I don't feel the need to learn that lesson again, personally. So, that's my 7 reasons. Like I said, there's a lot of reasons, you know. We think about homeschooling. We're not sure if we will, but if we do, it'll be easier with one child. You know, we hope to bring her to Disneyland someday, and we'll be able to do that sooner with only one child, plus it'll be more affordable with only one child. You know, there's just, I feel like I'm blanking right now on other, like, small reasons. While editing, I realized a couple of the other smaller reasons that we wanted to stick with one and kind of together. Both co-sleeping and extended breastfeeding were really important to me. I really wanted to be able to do that with Aaliyah, and adding a second child would have potentially meant cutting her off from one or both of those things, and so I really didn't want to. I wanted to be able to do those, so we have, in making the choice to not have another kid. She's almost 3 now, and we are just now getting to the end of breastfeeding and co-sleeping. We're working on getting her to sleep in her own bed and working on quitting nursing. So I'm really thankful that we had these 3 years of doing both those things that were very important to me and that they weren't interrupted. And with that same thing, I'm really thankful to not be starting over with a second child right now, or had we had a child sooner or later, whatever, we aren't going to be doing these things again, because while I loved them and really was happy to be able to do them with Aaliyah, I'm ready to have my body back to myself. I've, like, basically for the last 4 years not had my body be my own. Like, I was either pregnant or breastfeeding, and I'm really looking forward to just having it be mine again. Like, it'll be nice to be done, as well as it'll be nice to get Aaliyah sleeping on her own, hopefully sleeping through the night, so Ryan and I can just have the bedroom to ourselves again. Not that I minded sharing with Aaliyah, and she'll still sleep with us sometimes for sure, but it's been nice being able to do both those things that were important, but it's also nice to not be doing those things again. Another thing that I was going to mention is, before making this a permanent decision that we were not having more children, I was one of those people who was super paranoid, and I took pregnancy tests all the time because I was convinced I was pregnant almost every single month. Okay, maybe not every single month, but a lot of months. I took a lot of pregnancy tests. Thankfully, there's really cheap ones out there. And I was just always paranoid about getting pregnant, especially the more and more we were becoming more sure of not having more kids. I just kept being like, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up pregnant. Oh my gosh, I'm going to end up pregnant. And I was so nervous. And that's a pretty clear sign that you shouldn't have more kids if you're freaked out about the thought of being pregnant. And I definitely was. Not to say that if by some act of God or science failing us, if I were to become pregnant, you know, of course, we would have that child and we would love that child. But as it stands, if it's our choice, we're not having more kids. So, yeah, those were a couple things I forgot to add. So I'm going to pop this in and then get back to where I was going with the video. But, you know, there's a lot of issues. Even, you know, some people think, you know, your kid needs someone to play with. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But what if they don't like each other? Because some siblings, like, fight constantly. And it's like, I didn't want to just give her someone to fight with. Like, that's not fun. And you just never know. And there's a lot of, you know, sibling rivalry, and I didn't want her to just constantly being compared to her sibling, or her sibling being compared to her, because I just don't think that's fair. And again, all these reasons are my own. They're how we felt about it. I think it's great for people who have kids and make it work. And I'm also just wanted to add a note to say you don't have to have kids. Like, a lot of people feel like there's this pressure socially to have children, but nobody has to have kids. If you are happy just with you and your partner, that's great. But for us, we did want a child. We have her. She's sneaking up on the camera again, and she's great. And we absolutely love having an only child and being a family of 3. And we're super happy, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yes.
So I hope you guys like this video. If you have any comments or questions, please leave them down below. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey. Are you cute?
Uh-huh.
Yes, you are. Do you like being an only child?
Uh-huh.
Having mommy and daddy all to yourself? I love you. Can you tell them hello? Delayed reaction.